I'm 71 years old, and if I could go back and whisper one sentence to the man I used to be, it wouldn't be about money or career or even love. It would be this: learn how to control your mind before it controls your life. My name is Daniel Brooks. I live in a quiet neighborhood outside Charlotte, North Carolina. Brick house, creaky porch swing, a lawn I take care of myself because I finally have the time. From the outside, I look like a man who made it through life just fine. Retired logistics manager, 2 grown kids, a few fishing buddies. Nothing dramatic. But here's the hook most people don't see. I didn't lose my life in one big mistake. I lost it in small, comfortable decisions repeated for 40 years. When I was 26, I worked at a regional shipping company near the airport. Early shifts, steel thermos full of coffee, country radio playing low in my pickup as I drove down I-485 before sunrise. I wasn't lazy. I showed up. I did my job. My supervisor, a guy named Frank Sullivan, used to tell me, "Dan, you've got leadership in you, but you're inconsistent." Inconsistent. That word followed me like a shadow. Some days I was locked in, first one there, last one to leave. Other days I'd hit snooze 3 times, rush out the door irritated, and coast through the shift doing just enough to avoid trouble. I lived based on how I felt. If I felt motivated, I performed. If I didn't, I drifted. That pattern feels harmless in your 20s. You tell yourself you're young, you've got time. But here's what nobody tells you. When you train your mind to obey your moods, you are building a fragile future. At 30, I married a woman named Claire. She was organized in a way I wasn't. Budget spreadsheets, meal plans, long-term savings goals. I loved her steadiness. I leaned on it too much. When she talked about building something bigger for our future, I'd say, "Relax, we'll get there." We didn't. Because "we'll get there" without discipline is just optimism wearing a mask. I'd promised to start night classes to move into management. I enrolled twice. Dropped out twice, always for a good reason. Too tired, too busy, too stressed. I believed my excuses because they sounded logical. But excuses compound just like effort does. By 38, a younger guy named Andrew Miller got promoted above me. He wasn't louder, wasn't more charismatic. He was steady, always prepared. Always early, always finished what he started. I remember sitting in my truck after the announcement, hands gripping the steering wheel, telling myself it was politics. Deep down, I knew better. Andrew didn't negotiate with himself. I did. That difference is invisible day to day. But give it 10 years and it changes everything. By my mid-40s, my health had started slipping. Nothing dramatic, just weight slowly creeping up, energy fading, doctor warning me about blood pressure. "You need to make some changes," he said casually, like it was a suggestion. I went to the gym for 3 weeks. Then I stopped, because I didn't feel like it. That sentence ran my life for decades. I don't feel like it. I don't feel ready. I don't feel motivated. Feelings became my boss, and feelings are unreliable managers. At 49, Claire said something that still echoes in my mind. We were sitting at the kitchen table after dinner. The kids were in their rooms. The house was quiet. She looked at me and said, "Daniel, you always talk about what you're capable of, but you never prove it." It wasn't anger in her voice, it was disappointment. Disappointment is heavier than anger. I promised I would change. For a month I did. Early mornings, healthier meals, studying again for a certification. Then I slipped back into old habits. Because I hadn't changed my identity, I was still the man who did things when he felt like it. At 55, Claire left. No screaming, no chaos, just emotional exhaustion. She said, "I can't keep waiting for you to become who you say you're going to be." I watched her car pull out of the driveway, and I felt something I hadn't felt before. Not rage, not shock, emptiness. That was the moment the hook started sinking in. Every unfinished goal, every broken promise to myself, every time I chose comfort over discipline. They weren't isolated decisions. They were patterns, and patterns build outcomes. For a few years after that, I drifted even more. Work, television, takeout dinners, occasional calls from my kids. I told myself this is just how life goes. That's a dangerous thought, because life doesn't just go. It moves in the direction your habits pointed. At 60, something shifted. I was sitting on my back porch one evening, watching the sun drop behind the trees, the air thick with Carolina humidity, and the sound of cicadas in the distance. I remember thinking how fast the years had passed. I realized I had spent more than half my life reacting instead of leading, reacting to moods, letting how I felt decide what I did, reacting to stress, pulling back when things got hard instead of leaning in, reacting to circumstance, blaming the environment instead of adjusting myself, never deliberately shaping my days, never setting a standard and holding myself to it. And here's the hook I wish I understood earlier. If you don't discipline your mind, life will discipline you, and it won't ask your permission. Through divorce, through quiet goodbyes you weren't ready for, through missed promotions, watching others move forward while you stand still, through health scares, doctor visits that feel heavier than they should, through regret, the kind that shows up when the house is dark and there's no one left to distract you. I decided I was done negotiating, done bargaining with my weaker impulses. The next morning when my alarm went off at 5:30, I got up. No debate, no bargaining. It sounds small, it wasn't. It was the first time in years I acted without consulting my emotions. I started walking every morning. Rain, cold, humid summer air that felt like breathing through a wet towel. Some mornings I didn't want to move, but I went anyway. I tracked my food. I paid off debts methodically. I read books instead of zoning out in front of the TV. The first few months were uncomfortable. My mind resisted. It wanted shortcuts and the old easy rhythm where comfort came first. But something changed slowly, not overnight. I started respecting myself. I started trusting that when I said I would do something, I actually would. Discipline isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself with applause. It builds quietly, and once it builds, you feel steadier, calmer, less reactive to every inconvenience. By 66, my health numbers improved. My son Ryan told me one afternoon while we were working in the garage, "Dad, you seem different lately, more solid." He didn't realize how much that meant to me. Solid, not flashy, not perfect. That word meant everything. It meant reliable. It meant grounded. But here's the honest truth, the part that still stings. I still carry regret. Because change doesn't erase history. Because I can't rewind the years I drifted. I can't sit at that kitchen table again and answer differently. I can't redo my 30s with discipline instead of excuses. I can't show Claire the version of me I became too late. I can't give Claire the version of me she deserved back then. That chapter is closed. Time is ruthless. It doesn't pause while you figure yourself out. It keeps moving whether you're disciplined or not. It doesn't slow down for regret. So if you're younger than me, hear this clearly, not as advice, as warning. Every time you hit snooze, every time you skip what you said you'd do, every time you choose comfort over growth, you're training your mind. You're reinforcing a standard. You're teaching it what standard to follow. And your mind will obey that standard without argument. And one day, you'll wake up and realize you've been living at that standard for decades. What felt small became your identity. Your mind can be your greatest asset or your biggest liability. It will either build you or quietly undermine you. Mine was a liability for too long. I gave it permission to control me. I finally turned it into an asset, but I had to fight habits I built myself. But I paid for the delay, and that's a debt time never fully refunds. If this story feels uncomfortably familiar, don't ignore that feeling. That's awareness knocking, and it won't wait forever. So start now. Keep the small promises you make to yourself, and stop negotiating with the part of you that keeps settling for less. If you want more real stories from someone who learned the hard way, stories most people are too afraid to say out loud, make sure you like and subscribe.